Hello and welcome to the research workshop. I'm back again here at Southgate. So you can tell I don't have my eclectic background for my own personal home, even though I am wearing a 50 years of hip hop shirt. So that's pretty eclectic. I've been getting looks on it. I actually have a sweatshirt for it too. And the security guard at one of the markets I go to in downtown stopped me and goes, "Why you represent hip hop?" And I explained to him. It was pretty funny. But I actually was at the event, the one at the Microsoft Theater. So yeah, good times, good times. All right. Let's see. For my dual enrollment students out there, the participation will, just like the other videos, will be hidden, and you have to answer before you can see other people's responses. Let's see what else. For non DE students, this is the research workshop. So even if you sat through it, this video will be up, so you'll be able to come back to it and rewatch it again and so forth. So it's a great way to refresh or go back and say, okay, that's right, that's how he said to do it, and so forth. For everybody, just a reminder, my research background, not only as an academic with all the degrees and so forth, but it's also practical as well. I worked for years in the public library system, did a couple years at a reference desk. Let's see, and learn all the tricks there. I did it professionally in my political days. I was an opposition researcher where I found, lots of information about policy and so forth, but also about individuals and their things that they don't want to come out. So I some of the techniques I talk about today is how to skate around some of the usual stuff that trips people up and gets right to the point. If you ever need research questions and so forth, any of my students can reach out to me and ask me as well. I think that's everything I want to start off. So let's get started. We're going to first start out and look at the first steps of research when you're doing research. This part of the class, by the way, and same thing with the visual aid workshop, is something that is very helpful for this class, but it's going to be more importantly helpful in your other classes as well. And there's going to be things that you can actually use in your real life. I told students, someday you might want to buy a house and you have to look up, property values and contributors and so forth, and financial deals and research on schools, to have kids. What do you need? Someone's sick, and especially now where there's kind of information warfare out there, not just like we hear about Russia and China and Iran and our own CIA and stuff like that, but you also have to take into account that there's just individuals, just lone wolves out there putting out fake information and so forth. So being able to look up stuff is a very vital, important component in surviving in today's world. So hopefully these little tricks and so forth can help you. Let's see. So we're going to get started on basic internet research, and where all research really starts nowadays, and that's in the internet. So I'm going to go over the first steps with you, and then I'll cover a website that I highly recommend and how that can work for other websites as well, how to cite that website and how to do citations, and then end up with the most important thing, which is how to do the library database, which is the best way. And there are going to be testable questions given out during this thing, so you got to pay attention. Now I'll do the hint hint nudge nudge thing as I always do for the testable stuff. All right, so let's get started. First, search. And by the way, when I look up stuff, I should hold on. Let me back this up a bit. I'm gonna do some. I'm gonna do some because I want you guys. You know how Google shows stuff. You type in words. So maybe I don't want to show like previous searches. Nothing embarrassing. I just don't want you guys to just see stuff I look up. I just think it's invasion of privacy. All right, so we're gonna do the first search, and so I got to share screen, and we're gonna look up dogs. Hey, dogs! Dogs are great. Dogs are awesome. Dogs are the best. That's just my personal opinion. Remember, when I share opinions, they're just examples. I'm not pushing an agenda. You can always have your own opinions. I just give an example because that way you see what an example is like and how I develop it. But dogs are the best. So, all right. So I just did a simple Google search on dogs. And let's start off with the obvious. That's a cute dog. But the other obvious thing is, why is this not a credible search? It's a good first step search, but it's not a credible search. And the reason why is simple. If I go down here, I will look at, yeah, maybe National Geographic is credible, but then I'm going to get the American Kennel Club, Pet Finder, which is a business, an encyclopedia, which is not credible as well. So you can see here, you can maybe get biased sources or maybe things that are not citable because they're not updated. They might be old information as well. So, or outdated. So you can see here a simple search can actually provide not much credible possibilities. In fact, most searches, the first thing is like whatever companies are pushing. But first searches are awesome though, because when you start the search process of brainstorming, it gives you ideas. It gives you ideas. So let me scroll back down. Um, oh, look, the paw. Oh, how cute. So let's scroll down. And yeah, National Geographic, right? You look down. Excuse me, sorry. And the good thing about Google searches is kind of tells you what people look for first or what they look up the most. And you can see here dog breeds are like a very popular search. And so that's why some of the first things are about dog breeds and the history and so forth, how they were domesticated, popular breeds. Look at that. So you can see here that's something people care about. And remember what I said in class. The best way to reach people is to go after their self-interest. So Google kind of tells you what people's self-interest is. That's what's good about Google First Steps, especially in brainstorming. So if you're doing a dog speech, you're like, okay, maybe I need to cover dog breeds because obviously people care about different dog breeds. All right. So you can keep going down, and you'll see other things, definition. You might see they care about the health of the dogs and so forth. Most of this is just breeds. But yeah, you can look down. Oh, We Rate Dogs. I love that. I love that group. I follow that on Instagram and uh, Twitter. I'm never calling it X. All right. So you can see here tons of stuff. Tons of stuff. Oh, guide dogs for the blind. So you could see here how it's good for brainstorming. It tells you kind of what is good and so forth, and what people care about, and actually shows you what's like the most popular breeds. By the way, French Bulldog is last year was the number one sold breed in the United States. It passed golden, I think golden retrievers or labs. I don't know. Anyways, let's keep going. Um, the other thing that's really good for Google, and this is actually more for the visual aid workshop, but I'm going to say it here, is of course, this is where people get images from, right? This is where people get images for their presentations, for their PowerPoints and stuff. So if you need an image search, this is where to go. Now, here's the thing you need to know about image searches. It's perfectly okay to do an image search and take it off of a website. Uh, for like a class presentation or any kind of just casual presentation, small event type presentation. But if you ever have to do a major speech or like if you're putting out a publication or a flyer that's going to go to thousands or a mailer that's going to go to thousands of people, you need to make sure you follow copyright law. Not that important right now. Not important for your speeches here, not important for a PowerPoint to your local PTA or something. But if you ever go up and go to the next level in public speaking or public relations, Copyright's very important. So when you click on these things, you can actually see the copyright information as well. I'm not going to show you that, but I'm just putting it out there. Perfectly fine to use these for classroom PowerPoints. But the other big one that I like to use for in Google is the news one. All right. The news one is really good because it tells you what people are talking about or what people are reporting. It could lead you to legitimate websites. It can, CNN and so forth. But you can, oh, this is so sad story. Man, people are jerks. I mean, I need to grab my water. Excuse me, folks. You can see here, again, great brainstorming. Let people are talking about what the latest things. Fighting wiener dogs. There you go. Major news stories. But you can see it's very important to go and figure out what people are interested in. All right. And so news does that. It maybe leads you to credible websites, but I think more importantly, it can tell you what the latest stuff people are talking about or care about or is being reported. Great for brainstorming and great for figuring out what people's interests are. Because a lot of news sites, I hate to say this like this, a lot of the websites and news sites, especially with their fluff stories, kind of cater to people's self-interest. So just FYI. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one, but I just wanted to show you guys what the it's kind of I just wanted to show you the thing. Oh, by the way, before we continue, I'm gonna stop for a second to talk about credibility on web news stuff. So if you're looking through like Google News or something and you find an article, or later on when we're in the library database, I told you all the different ways already in class how to check out viability, right? If it's from a reputable website, newspaper, magazine, if it's have a journal from a good source, stuff like that. I mean, that's the obvious stuff. But sometimes you have to go over the judgment because, like, sometimes you're like, what? What were they thinking about publishing this? Or why is this important? So the example I use is years ago, CNN came out with an article about face tattoos. If you have a face tattoo, if you're watching this video, I guess apologies. I'm not trying to pick on you, but I think it's a good example. CNN did an article about face tattoos and wrote in the article was like, face tattoos are more accepted, even in the workforce. They're more accepted in our society now. Face tattoos are more accepted, right? And for years, every time I talked about this article, I've always asked students, "Hey, does anyone have tattoos?" And students, they don't show, but they just yes. And then finally, one semester, I finally had a student who had a face tattoo. And I told the student, I said, "Hey, I'm going to talk about this subject. Are you okay with it? And can I ask you a question about it?" And this was before class. The student said, "Yeah, that's fine." And also, by the way, I asked if I could share the story, and he said yes as well. So I talked about this article that I'm about to talk about. And in this article, it said that face tattoos are more accepted in society and the workforce. And I turned to the student and I said, "Hey, you have a face tattoo. Is that article correct?" And the student said, "No, no, it's not correct at all." So why would CNN put it out? Well, they had examples of why face tattoos are more acceptable. And their examples were like Post Malone and Lil Wayne and other celebrities and musicians with face tattoos. And especially and the main focus was Post Malone, right? Why is it not valid? Why is it questionable? Excuse me. Because obviously they're probably more accepted because they're famous, right? They're using famous people as the barometer. That's why it's not valid. So don't be afraid to use your own reasoning to go, wait a second, this is a little bit too convenient. And by the way, if you do that by the way to like biased websites, you'll figure out quickly why they're biased. Like why are they only talking about this issue and not talk about the other parts of this issue? Oh, it's because they're biased. Same thing with CNN thing. It wasn't a bad article. It wasn't pushing an agenda. It just was ignoring the fact that these guys were famous, and that's why they're more accepted, and probably not something to. Same thing every time they talk about celebrity health. Oh, you mean the multimillionaires' healthcare? Not the same. Not the same. All right. Let's move on to the other first step. I took that little break to talk about that. Let's go into the other first step, and that is Wiki. So we're going to go back to Google, and I am going to bring up a celebrity. Nice guy, by the way. Got to meet him once. Got to hang out with his crew a little bit for an event, and that is drum roll, please. Wait, why am I not doing this right? Oh, okay, I'm in the wrong screen. That is Fluffy. Gabriel Iglesias, right? And Gabriel Iglesias is a good example for this, and because we're going to use his wiki. Now, if you were doing something talking about Gabriel Iglesias, you can do a simple Google search and you can tell. And by the way, it shows you right here the things that people care about the most, or like this is a good example of business pushing the agenda on Google. His website is obviously, and rightfully so, the number one search for when you look up Fluffy. And it probably covers more the business side first, and then it goes into maybe more fan orientated stuff. So that's why, again, Google's not the best. But we're going to forget about that part. We're going to actually go into his wiki, right? You probably a bunch of you have already seen his act and different things. So you know a basic information about Fluffy if you've watched any of his comedy or his TV shows or just heard any information about him. You probably know he's from the LA area. I thought he was mostly from Whittier, but he moved around a bunch as I discovered. He lived in Whittier for a bit, and now he's in Long Beach, I think, and so forth. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff there. So that's something I know. I've heard his jokes about his relationship, his health, his son, and how awkward of a situation that was starting out, and lots of other jokes that he's made. So Wiki is not citable. It's not citable for various reasons. I'll talk about that in a second. But the reason why we're starting with the good stuff is it is very good. I don't like when professors or people are snooty and say, "Oh, it's a bad thing." It's actually Wiki's great. Wiki's awesome. It's great because it usually confirms information you already know. That's the number one resource with Wiki. It confirms information you know, right? Like if I was doing a report on Christmas, a lot of our Christmas traditions are German. And I know that not only because I speak German, but I've been to Germany, I've been to their Christmas big their sites and so forth. And I remember that stuff. So I go to do a wiki search on Christmas and I'll probably have that a lot of that confirmed. Same thing with here, Gabriel Iglesias. You go down and sure enough, you'll find out he was born in San Diego, but he moved around a bunch and mostly in the LA area, right? He was on Nickelodeon and stuff like that. Uh, Talks about his relationships and so forth, and the things, his health. Talks about that, the movies he's been in. So it confirms a lot of information you know. And then it could also lead you into stuff that you don't know. Like I didn't know how much time he spent in Long Beach before Whittier, for example. I found that out today when I was looking this over with another class and stuff like that. So he actually it could tell you information. Now, can you use any of this stuff? No, not at all. It's still wiki. You still can't use it, but it's good to confirm what you know and maybe lead you in directions of when you actually want to research. All right. Before I go into tricks about Wikipedia, I just want to say this real quick. The two reasons why it is not citable. Number one, it could be very dated. It could be outdated or old information, or this website wasn't dated. It's the same reason why encyclopedias cannot be cited. Encyclopedias are still around. You go to the library and find them. But encyclopedias, they're not citable because a lot of times they get outdated pretty quickly. By the way, I might, just FYI, I might have to pause this video because my room is not, my classroom is not available right now. So I'm in another classroom. Anyways, so it might be outdated. And then the other thing, the reason why Wikipedia is not citable is because people can mess with it. People can put up false information. People can purposely try to wreck things. There's a stand-up comedian, Daniel Tosh, when he had his Comedy Central show, he directed his fans to mess with his website, and it became a thing. And you can actually go online and find lists of like the most, inaccurate wiki pages or the most dangerous ones in the sense of false information, things like that. So that's why wiki is not citable, is because there are bad actors and so forth, and it can be outdated. But it is still a really good website to get the information. Now, let me go over some stuff. So I told you you can look up information and then maybe go to a legitimate search and then find it on your own. There's this idea that if you come down to here to the references, that this is okay. Like if you just copy and paste these references, they're good. Thing is, no, they could be also faked. They can also be false. And if you click on these, yeah, sometimes like students thought it was funny when I clicked on one of them and it was accurate, meaning that it was an active thing. Yeah, some of them could still be up, but a lot of them are behind paywalls. Like if it's like the El Paso Times or the Las Vegas Sun or let's see what else. Oh, excuse me. So you can, there was an article I think on Los Angeles Times on here, and so yeah, they're behind paywalls. You click on the article and you can't access it to confirm it's whether it's real or not. If I was gonna fake a reference, I would put it behind a paywall so people can't confirm it. So what I'm trying to say here is just you can use these to maybe use an accurate database to maybe see if they're real, but don't think that they're automatically real. Don't think you automatically can get to them either. All right. By the way, just a reminder, if you have questions about any of this stuff, you know that you could talk to me in class or message me in Canvas as well. All right, so that's Wiki, and we're going to get out of the share screen for a second. A little bit nervous about this video because of how slow my image, how much my image is slowing down when I'm doing this. All right, so I was going to show you a website now that is highly accurate, or I think it's a website that you need to know, not just for this class, but for other classes. And I'll show you how to get to it. Just a simple Google search. Ooh, excuse me. Excuse me. Bubbly water, as always. All right, so I have the CIA World Factbook in front of me. You just Google CIA World Factbook or CIA Factbook, or you will find it. And so just let me give you the history of this. So CIA for generations now, it seems like, or decades, we'll say decades, has been gathering information, right? People always talk about their nefarious things and the really bad stuff they did. I talk about that stuff all the time. But at the same time, they are an information gathering organization. And before years before the internet, and I'm well, not, but for years, Congress directed them to put out a encyclopedia-like book called the World Factbook. And you might say, well, how is this citable and the encyclopedia is not? And the reason why is simple, because the CIA, because of Congress and because of oversight, has to update this stuff. And especially when it went on the internet. and so forth. And they cite what years that they came out. So it's very up to date, and it also shows the differences in years as well. So it's verifiable. It's not just an excerpt, an article or a passage that they pulled and posted on um, wiki or an encyclopedia. So it's a lot more accurate because it's been proven and also because of the oversight and lots of different reasons. So that's why it's really good. All right, so we'll click on it. By the way, when I get to it, I want to say the old setup was way better. So let's say you're on Google, I'm not Google, Newsweek or Economist, and you somehow, again, these websites are really good, but there's a paywall. This doesn't have a paywall. This is why I'm using this. So you go to the website, you click on it, and you look at different things. You use the reasoning and some of the other tools I told you already to see whether it's legitimate. But a couple things I want to note first. This right up here on the top right is where you can click on and find a lot of the stuff you want to find. But I like to scroll down here because there'll be like cute little pictures and so forth. But this is the part that you really want. Explore countries and so forth. Now, before I continue, and by the way, sometimes countries you could put the European Union in it, and it has those kinds of block as well, and the world and its regions, which is really good. The region one is really good. I'm not going to click on any of them, but just imagine what I'm about to show you with it with the country, but for regions and how vital that is, especially if you're doing a speech about climate change. There's Antarctica right here. If you're doing stuff about um, the history of the CIA in Central America, here's some facts for you. Oh, what's going on in the Middle East? Middle East is right here. So it can give you some basic info for the region itself, which is very important. But we're going to go up back to countries and we're going to choose a country and we're going to choose the United States. I'm going to choose the United States. Oh, excuse me. I'm doing this workshop 3 times today. 3 times. And this is only my second time. Um, but you click on it and it shows you, cute pictures and country flags, kind of like sixth grade country report stuff, right? Not that impressive. This is the part that you want. This is the part that you need, or to make this valid, is going over here and looking up all the possibilities here and so forth. All right. Why is it not scrolling down to the, there you go. So you can see there's a lot of stuff here. And so you click on any of these things on the left-hand side, like we'll click on economy. And right there is the GDP for the United States for 2022, 21, and 20. That's pretty impressive. It notes what dollars it's in, GDP growth, GDP per capita, inflation rates, lots of stuff here. Lots of really good stuff here. So if you're doing a speech about the issue with inflation in today's society, obviously this is a great way to get basic info for the United States for inflation for, there obviously is the growth there, 1.323 to now 8%. So you can see credit cards, industry, labor force, unemployment rates, expenditures. You can just see how great this stuff is. Public debt, taxes, revenue. So whatever issue you're dealing with, if you're doing anything like a mental health, there is a people in society page. There is so there's that one right there. And there's stuff about healthcare and the economy section as well, government as well, geography if you're doing some kind of regional stuff. So the reason why CIA World Factbook is if a lot of times your speeches or papers you might write in the future just need like the GDP for the United States, and instead of going to all these different websites to verify, you can get a lot of that stuff here very easily, and also it's really good if you're doing comparisons as well. All right. Okay, so let's get out of the screen here. So what happens when you find a website or anything else that you need to cite? Um, okay. Sorry, I'm just getting annoyed by how slow the screen is showing. Oh, okay, so we're gonna click on this one right here, and I just wanted to show you this simple search right now, and that is Al Purdue. And the reason why I'm showing you Al Purdue here is because it's a really great website if you are doing anything with, if you need explanation on why things are cited or examples. This is the formal place. And we use in our class, and pretty much 9 out of 10 of your college classes will be APA. So it explains APA and so forth on this one. There's MLA and Chicago style. I don't know why people still use them because APA is the one that's preferred by pretty much all professionals. So awesome stuff. APA, right? But there's another one I'm going to show you, and that is you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to read a website or anything. You can just put APA citation and then cite what you're looking for. So, for example, we looked up CIA World Factbook. There it is. APA citation website. There it goes right to it. Pretty easy, right? It can get even easier. So let me show you. You click on images, APA citation website images. Pow, right there. Look at that pretty picture. Look at this pretty picture right here. You click on it, and now you have a physical example how others have done it. Where you don't have to read a bunch of stuff on how to do it because someone has done it for you. You just put in your information. All right. So it's actually really easy. You could do that for other things as well. Let's go with the magazine. Oops. I put in magazine. I don't put in magazine article. It gives me more examples if I just put in magazine. Boom, right there. AP print magazine citation. There you go. Example. You do the same thing for book, journal, whatever it is. It's important, by the way, to make sure you choose the right one. There's a difference between newspaper and book, and newspaper and magazine, and journal and website. So use the proper one because professors will look at it and go, "Oh, they used the wrong one, or they weren't paying attention, or they didn't, So make sure you use the right one. Again, the way you know is put in APA citation and then what it is. Is it a book? Is it whatever? Now, some people have asked me about ebooks and newspaper articles that they find online. Me personally, as a professor, you might check with your professors on this. I would rather have you do it as a magazine citation instead of a website. Even though you found it on a website, if it's a magazine article and it's originally from print, I prefer using the magazine one to demonstrate that it's from a magazine. All right. I just want to show you one more, not needed for this class, but there is in text citation. This is for classes where you have to write essays and so forth. It shows you how to do it too. And all you have to do is APA citation in text, and you can put in book, website, article, and it shows you all the variations on how to cite in text. So I just wanted to show that to you. Again, if there's any questions, save it for class, or you can message me as well. I know I should have yawned. Let's go ahead and do the participation now. The participation is pretty easy. All you have to do in the comments is write down what you believe what you want to look up for a reference. So what do you want to look up for your speech? So if your topic is dogs, then obviously you want to look up the different dog breeds. Or maybe you want to look up when dogs became domesticated, right? Your subject matter is sushi, then you can look up, you know, sushi introduced to the United States or modern, versions of sushi. I once had a sushi that was, you can get cooked sushi now, which is weird. But I like this one at this one place. It's a tempura sushi. And then I once had a cooked sushi because it was meat and fish. It was a surf and turf sushi. It's awesome. But yeah, you can look up stuff like that. So put down for your participation what you are going to look up for your topic. You put your topic and then you put what you're interested in. If you want to put more than one idea, then you go do so. All right. All right, let's continue. Now I can show you how to find what I'm about to do with the ELAC website and so forth. I could, but there's an easier way to do it. Now, before I do that, I'm going to stop this for a second. I'm going to tell you something. What I'm about to show you with the library database can also be done with your local library. Most local libraries have search engines, right? They have search engines and library databases. And the bigger libraries in the bigger cities, like the Los Angeles Main Library, or where I used to work, the Fresno Main Library, they have search databases that are really good. Like people go there to look up who owns property, how to find people's phone numbers and stuff like that. So you don't knock the public libraries because you can have access to library databases without having to go to school. And by the way, just FYI, once you're done here at ELAC, you are, and anywhere you go, you're alumni. So you'll be able to go and use the library database even after you graduate, even after you're done. I have used Cal State LA's database as alumni. I had to go on campus for that, but it is accessible to me. Same thing with Fresno City College, Fresno State, University of Oklahoma. University of Oklahoma is really good because I could do that online as an alumni, which is really nice. So good to go to the better school. All right. So, anyways, so yeah, so library databases are great, and you'll have access to library databases even after you graduate, even after you're done with ELAC. And there's a thing I want to show you and talk to you about in a second, but let me show you how to really look up the library database for ELAC. So you can go to the website and go through all the little steps, but this is how you should do it. Ready? Just type in ELAC library database. Just type it in. Just click on it. And there you go. There it is. And you click on it and you're into the database. Now, a couple things. I am not using one of our computers. I'm using my personal computer. But I am on a campus using ELAC Wi-Fi. So why is that important? Because if you're at ELAC campus, and by the way, dual enrollment students, all this, what I'm talking about is available to you as well. It's available to you as well. You can go to the ELAC library yourself physically, or you can access library database from home, but you're going to need passwords, right? So let's talk about real quick. The best way to access the library database is to be on a library computer at ELAC, right? Or any of the computers on ELAC because it automatically identifies that you're associated with ELAC, so you get access to the library. Being on the Wi-Fi usually also automatically, ELAC Wi-Fi usually automatically lets you into the database. But if you're doing this from home, you're going to need a password. If you're not on the Wi-Fi, if you're not the library computer, you're going to need the password. So if you don't know sometimes now I don't know for dual enrollment, but for myself, my password for for this is different than my password to log in for Canvas. So if you have any problems logging in, contact the library or contact the IT, and don't contact me. I don't know it. All right. I'm not an IT administrator. So do that. That's it. All right. So I'm logged into the databases. All right. I'm logged in. Now there's a lot of options. Now, before I continue, I'm going to show you this real quick. There are some really invasive databases out there. This one that I have used before is LexisNexis for lawyers. If you know a lawyer, they probably have access to it themselves. They're paying like almost $200 a month to have access. It's a really high value. But the reason why I mention it is LexisNexis for lawyers, it will find like people's criminal records, their property records. I remember I looked it up, looked myself up, and not only did it have like my personal information, places I lived and so forth. It had all my media appearances from when I worked in politics. That was super creepy. So just FYI, we don't have access to it, but I want to let you know that there's really advanced databases that can get really personal, kind of like Lincoln. Um, I will never use Lincoln. It's too creepy. All right. So here we go. We're at the library databases. These things are awesome. They're great. They're wonderful. Um, but there's a lot of them. And I'm going to tell you right now, I only use one of the search and library databases pretty much my entire academic years, from Fresno City College to my last one, Cal State LA, right? Even for graduate, most of the time it was one, and it was called, I'll get to it in a second. But there's a bunch of others as well. You don't really use the others until maybe third or fourth year of your 4-year degree, or maybe graduate school if you go to graduate school, because the others can be very specific and look for different things. So just FYI. Um, so let's continue. Um, which is the best one? So there's a bunch of them here. But Academic Search Complete, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, is the best one on here. By the way, library databases, also hint, hint, nudge, nudge, is the best, safest, most thorough way to research for any college course. It's the safest, most most likely to succeed way to do it. Okay. Academic Search Complete is the best, most well-rounded one of the ones you can choose. That's why it's number one in the most featured databases. This is the one that people use the most, and there's a reason, Academic Search Complete. So I'm going to click on it. And because you are part of ELAC, either with the Wi-Fi or on their computer, or if you log in from home with your password, you automatically have access to this database. If you try using it on your own without ELAC, you're going to pay money, right? Most databases are just like the LA Times Online or the New York Times Online. You have to pay money. Let's continue. All right, so that's what we're doing. Oh, I gotta move my screen real quick. So we're here right now, right? There's a lot of stuff here, but we're gonna focus on the most important stuff, okay? I'm gonna skim through some of them. I'm not gonna show, but this is the stuff I'm gonna show right now. We're gonna choose a generic topic. I usually go with student topics, but I'm recording it and I'm gonna do one that's a banned speech. I'm gonna do COVID. So if I do, and I look up COVID, I'm just gonna type in COVID. You can see here, I have almost 300,000 results from the library database. We're talking articles, newspaper periodicals, magazines, and so forth. There's a lot of possibilities here. Lots of them, almost 300,000 worth, right? But what if you want it, you don't need as much, or you want it more narrow? It's just like a Google search, you add more words. So let's say lockdown. You click on it, you add a word, it will narrow down your search. It'll be more focused. So instead of almost 300,000, you will have almost 45,000. And so you can see here by just adding a word, you can narrow down your focus, you can get more precise, and you have less stuff to look at. So that's a good thing. All right. We're going to still continue on these search bars, but I'm going to show you another way to do it. Ignore or. I don't use or. I highly recommend you don't mess around with or, but I just let you know it's there. Not is the button that you want. So let's say I was doing a speech and I needed information about Southern California. When we think of Southern California, we mostly just think of Los Angeles, right? But there's so much more to um, Southern California and Los Angeles. There's Long Beach, there's San Diego, Oceanside. We don't like to admit it, but the Inland Empire, Riverside is also Southern California. East California, yeah, like Barstow and Palm Springs, that's essentially Southern California as well. All right. So there's a lot there when it comes to Southern California. That's not Los Angeles. So if I put in not Los Angeles, hopefully it would show me stuff about Southern California that doesn't have to pertain to Los Angeles. Let's say I was doing a speech about COVID and I wanted to know about the lockdown, but I didn't want to hear the approach done by the United States. I wanted foreign, non-US sources or non-US examples. So I put in the United States in the not part, and sure enough, 19,000 articles, so reduced, and it talks about maybe different countries and so forth, maybe different outside the US sources. Wales, there's Wales. What else we have? What other countries did we get? Zimbabwe, India. So lots of other sources outside the United States here. Lots of different articles. So you can use the and, comma, not to have some kind of more focus or variety in your searches. All right. If you have questions about this, you know how to ask. All right, we're going to go down here to the left now. And what I mean by left is left on your screen. So there's a lot of stuff here. Now I'm going to focus. I'm not going to show you examples of this because it'll take time, and we want to wrap this up. I'm getting very sleepy. No, we want to wrap this up because I don't want to go too long. So I want to point out some little tricks you can do over here. And the first trick that you can do is that publication date. You see that over there on the left-hand side? Now, COVID's a recent thing, so that's maybe not a good one to use. I'll use one that a student gave me today because they were interested in doing a speech about baseball. All right, lots of articles here, and I want you to see something. So look at that publication date on the baseball one from 1909 to 2024. Now, there's two things I want to point out. First off, not in this class, but in other classes, and it's a rule I have personally for when I do research. Usually professors want you to have the most current sources. So you can actually use the publication date over here. See if I can highlight it. This thing over here, you can use the publication date here, and you can narrow the focus so you can have maybe the last 10 years from 2014 to 2024. And then there's another little trick you can do. You can go on the publication date, and let's say you want to have the perspective of baseball in the 1970s. That's fine. You just go to the publication date, and you can have from 1970 to 1979. And the reason why that's a good idea is because, again, historical perspective. All right. So that publication date is pretty cool. Over here is this source type stuff, the stuff I'm highlighting now. Okay, so out of the sources, the most accurate one, the one that's a professor prefer the most, is journals. We like ourselves. We like oh, you chose journals. Oh, you love academia. You love our life. So I think that's one of the reasons why professors prefer journals, but journals are also peer evaluated, they're tested, they have a lot of the scientific method and a lot of research requirements. It's a lot, it's very reliable. It's top notch. Anyone who's ever seen the TV show Big Bang Theory, you've known anytime they talk about being published, it was in academic journals. And they talk about, oh, a science team in Italy, tested out our findings. That's also part of the journal process. Okay. But what are some other accurate ones? If I was you, if I was looking up, I would click on the boxes for academic journals, magazines, and newspapers, and that's it. Book reviews, trade publications, the other ones, hot garbage. Don't use them. Don't ever use them. The one I use the most, academic journals. And then if I wanted a variety of sources, then I would add magazines and newspapers and for my search. Last but not least, I'm going to show you a little trick I have done. And that is you can come over here and choose the language. There's articles in different languages here. And the reason why you do that is there's lots of good reasons why. One reason is it also like limits the region that it's from. So if you chose French, um, then it would focus on French speaking areas, right? But another really good thing about it is it just shows your variety and so forth. Can you use foreign language journals? Yes. By the way, when I talk about using foreign language, just only use journals. But yeah, you can use like a Spanish speaking journal because again, it's universally known to use um, the same standards and the same practices as others. All right. So yeah, perfectly fine to use them. Have I used them before? Heck yeah. And I speak German, so I use German ones. By the way, you can only use foreign language ones if you can speak the language. By the way, it's a fun thing because especially if it's a language most people don't know, like German, it's kind of funny. They'll be like, "Oh, that's great." Can't look it up. But they actually can, but it's just fun to have them, have the foreign language stuff on their thing. I used to do that all the time on my papers. So I just wanted to show that to you. But let's talk about the most important part of this, and that is clicking on an article. So we're gonna click on a journal because that's the number one source. Look, there's papers on, there's journals about baseball. You'll be surprised what they have journal articles on. So I'm in these articles. The articles are usually over here on the left-hand side. Let me highlight it so you can see it. That's where the article is, all right? That's where if you want to read the article, if you want to pull numbers from the articles or facts or quotes from the author, that's where you would find it. And by the way, if they have a choice between PDF and HTML, I always choose PDF. But that's over here on the left. That's where you actually get the article. Down here, this is where people get information for citation and so forth. But the thing I wanted to show you is this, the abstract. This is probably the most important part of the article because especially with journals, every one of them has to come with an abstract to kind of tell the reader what they're about to read. So you don't even have to read the whole article before you think about using it. Read the abstract first, the very first thing you do when you click on the article, and it can tell you if you can use it or not. And then once it sounds good, then you go to the article. So abstract is very important because it kind of tests the article for you in your mind. All right. Last but not least, because we are done after this, there's the things on the right here, and there's Google Drive, OneDrive, folder, print, and so forth. When you get later on in college, you are going to probably maybe use Save once in a while, because you can go back and forth to it, especially when you do like hardcore research, when you have like a 10-page paper. So you can go to and save if you are signed into your account. But the one I wanted to show you is right here, and this is the most important one, probably the most important thing I show you today in the sense of thing. So library databases are the best because it's like the safest sources, meaning that you're not going to get called on uncitable sources, right? But it's also the best because it's the easiest way to find credible sources. And then it's also the easiest way to get citation. If I use the CIA World Factbook or found the source myself, on a website, then I have to go then track down the citation. You use a library database, you don't have to track down the citation. You can just um, click on cite and then find the one you need, copy, and paste it. That's it. That's all you have to do. By the way, when you paste it, paste it as plain text or format it to the source, because when you copy it from the website, it will look gray and tinted, and you don't want it to look like that. Any questions? You know how to do it. It's the easiest way to cite. Just get an article from the library database, click on the cite button, copy and paste it into your reference page. A little bit of advice I always give when you write an outline or a paper, I usually write the outline or paper first, and then I come back and research it. And the reason why is you want to protect your narrative. So a lot of students, when they research at the same time of writing their outline, they tend to shift their narrative because of the research they found. And usually, if you have a winning argument at the very beginning, if you shift through, your research and writing, that winning argument is now a jumbled mess. So I usually do the outline or paper first, and then I go back and cite and add in my references. All right, that's enough of that. I'm about to fall asleep. All right, have a good day. See you in class or the next video or whatever.